Thank you for tuning in to The Reading, produced by Black Spectrum Network. Click the subscribe button and the bell button to get the latest updates on this channel. You can purchase a private psychic reading by going to blackspectrumnetwork.com. If you want spiritual guidance to learn how to work with your ancestors or are interested in deepening your spiritual experiences, subscribe to our Patreon. You can get these and other videos at least 1 week ahead of their YouTube release date for as low as $2 a month. That's patreon.com/Black Spectrum Network. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the personality cards about the rapper Tupac Shakur. The first card I get for Tupac Shakur is the Rebel card, which is speaking about him having the ability to challenge authority to affect social change. This is saying that Tupac was someone that rebelled using music. He rebelled using music as his art form. I know that he was politically active. He was politically and socially aware, and he would use his lyrics to promote different social justice causes. It's also speaking about him being someone that was not particularly religious or believed in a religious system. He was a very spiritual person. He only rejected religious systems because he felt like there were people that were in those systems leading that were pretending to be shepherds, and they weren't actually meant to be shepherds. And he felt that these people were poor representatives of different religions, and the best religion that he could follow was was his own theology that he created for himself. It also speaks about him, rebelling out of peer pressure. So Tupac was someone that definitely felt pressured to fit into society, and by feeling that pressure so heavily and being so sensitive to those types of energies, he rebelled against them, and it made him become more independent. I don't know if he's an Aquarius, but that's an Aquarian type of trait. I get the card for the bully, which is highlighting his tendency to intimidate other people, specifically through his rap music, and intimidating other people through normal tactics such as physically fighting them, shooting them, using his friends and family members to threaten and attack other people. At the same time, he was able to confront his own inner fears that bullied him. He was someone that lived fearlessly in this lifetime. He was not afraid to go out and do and say what other rappers wouldn't, or they felt that they couldn't. He was doing this at an age where he felt that this was helping his voice to be unique, and he was thrilled that his lyrics and his ideas were being popularized in the media. I get the card for the victim, which speaks about him not being victimized or trying to play victim. This means all three of these cards together are saying that he's someone whose masculinity was built very much around protecting his personal image. And in addition to that, he never wanted people to think that he needed help. So he wanted to handle everything on his own. He was someone that was very emotional, and he would cry, but he wasn't he didn't yell cry. He patiently, he silent cried, and he would cry. Essentially he would cry thug tears, which was, he silent cried, but at the same time he was angry. He was willing to fight. The victim card is saying that he was also not someone that gave people pity. He spoke life into you. He never wanted you to be a victim of your life circumstances, because he felt that he's like, everyone had it hard. Everyone has it hard. I've got it hard too, but guess what? You got to get through it. I get the card for the athlete, which is speaking specifically about his physical stamina. I get that he was someone that didn't sleep a lot and he worked all the time. He was very active. I don't not so much just he wasn't just so much physically active. I don't get that he was particularly athletic, but he did keep his body in good shape. He also had a very developed willpower and a very strong spirit. So anything that he put his mind to, that and anything his intuition said that he needed to do, he would do, and he did it without any. He did it exceedingly well. He didn't believe in physical limits or physical limitations. Meaning that you could tell Tupac, hey, you can't fly. It's impossible to fly. He's going to try to literally fly because he's like, you know what, my arms are so strong that they can become wings. And that's, you know, my arms aren't going to be a physical limitation on me. And the idea that human beings can't fly without machinery, I'm going to prove that to be inaccurate as well. And that's not going to be a physical limit. He was someone that he was definitely someone that felt he was invincible in fights too as well. He had won a lot of fights in his lifetime, and I also get that he survived some near death encounters before his death, or his alleged death for the conspiracy theorists, because we will be investigating it in this reading. Is Tupac really dead? Okay, so I get the card for the scribe, which is speaking about him preserving knowledge and information. And the card for the scribe, I want you all to just see the rest of the cards anyway. But I get the card for the scribe, which is speaking specifically about him preserving knowledge and information through writing. And in particular, he wanted to keep his ideas sacred. I get the card for the lover, which is speaking about him being very passionate, very romantic, very devoted to spirit, very devoted to social justice causes, very devoted to the people that are around him. I also see him having an unbridled appreciation for just love in general, the love of humanity, the love of everybody. But at the same time, he could be obsessive. He had, you know, he's someone that when he fell in love with you, he felt like you were his, that, you know, he had ownership over you. He was also someone that could be destructive because of his devotion to people. So he would act out violently if he cared about you a lot, or he would and it's when I say act out violently, you know, if you were in a relationship with him and he didn't want you to leave, he's going to, you know, throw you against the wall to make sure you don't leave. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely violent, but is underneath it is he is a very, you know, powerful lover. And I see that he was obsessive as well. So when he felt betrayed by someone he loved, he made it his mission to strike back against them. I get the card for the priest, which is speaking specifically about him being a spiritual communicator and a channel of spiritual energy. So with the arithmetic of all of these cards, we can see that Tupac was someone that needed to rebel in the industry, to bully other individuals, to establish the rap music genre's credibility as a tough genre to survive in. The victim card, which is saying that he had no pity on the people that he had to take out, or the people that would rise against him. And then we have the athlete card, the scribe, the lover, and these are talking particularly about his public image. But the priest card is saying that, you know, he was able to command all of these different personalities simultaneously and draw from all of this energy, specifically because, you know, he was a vessel for God. I get the card for the storyteller, which is speaking specifically about his ability to tell stories through music. He was a musician that relied on, you know, his own personal. He was a musician that relied on his own personal biography to tell his stories. A lot of the stories that he told in his music, I'm hearing, are based off of real life experiences or things that he may have dreamt about. I see that his ancestors would come to him specifically through his dreams, and even when he would smoke, you know, especially when he would smoke, it was just like, you know, through divine inspiration, he was able to draw inspiration from his ancestral treasury and put those stories into his music, and he was able to profit from it. It was also saying that he made up tales to harm others. This is talking about diss tracks. It's talking about him establishing himself through diss records, and also using his words to, you know, be shady and mean and offensive towards people that he felt were harming his causes, or people that that he felt were disrespecting him and trying to gain pity from the public. So the last card is the virgin card, and it's not talking about him being sexually a virgin. It's speaking about him having a purity of heart, mind, and spirit. So Tupac was someone that, what you get is what he was definitely someone where it was like, what you get is what you see with me. What you get is what you see. And in addition to that, he's someone that he feared intimate relationships. He didn't like getting too close to people romantically. He did want to fall in love, but he wanted to fall in love with someone that he felt he had to chase after, someone that he felt would leave him before he left them. Okay. So now with that being said, we are going to go ahead and get into the tarot reading. The first question that I asked, and I didn't say it out loud, but the first question that I asked was about his I wanted to know about his childhood and high school experiences overall. I get the Nine of Swords here, which is speaking specifically about him. He was a very creative person, but he had issues maintaining personal boundaries with people. He was someone that was definitely in your face. When he had a problem with you, he was combative in the classroom. And I get that he was someone that was determined to, make his point. He was also someone that tried to maintain a strong position in high school, not trying to be the popular person, but by just defending his ideas. He was someone that was eclectic in how he dressed, how he presented himself. I also see people kind of questioning him because he was a little bit feminine, and I see that he felt like he always had to defend his values, his personal values, especially because of the ways in which he had to defend himself in his household, being around many intelligent people that always criticized his ideas, but they only did it to, make sure that he didn't allow for other people to cross his intellectual boundaries, that he didn't allow people to persuade him to do things that he wasn't normally determined to do. It is also speaking about him, having a lot of creative tension with other people because he was such a brilliant mind. Other students were jealous of him and did pick fights with him naturally out of wanting to be seen as the smartest or wanting to receive the most recognition from a teacher. With him coming up as the King of Spears, it's talking about him, being open and charismatic, engaging. He was someone that, he wasn't afraid to show his feelings. He wasn't afraid to say, I care about you or I love you. He had high standards for himself, held his head up high. He was a great communicator. The Chariot is talking about, whether he was in his childhood or in high school, he had a plan for his life. He wanted to make it, he didn't live like he was hood, but he wanted to make it out of the hood, and he believed that it was his intellect and his intelligence that would help him to make it out of the hood. Now, the Five of Swords is speaking specifically about his internal conflict with his self-esteem. He never felt totally confident in himself because of his difference. His uniqueness made him question his value as a man and as a son of the Black Panther Party. In addition to that, I see where he also had issues with just just always feeling defeated by life, feeling like that there were institutions always fighting against him, like his family's fighting against him, the people at school are fighting against him, my friends are fighting against me, people that I don't even know are fighting against me. But the star card is saying that he was deeply tapped into his ancestral knowledge, that he prayed a lot. I get that he did do ancestral work to some extent, specifically praying to his grandfathers and his fathers, the fathers and grandfathers in his family. I see the strength card is speaking specifically about he drew a lot of his personal strength, his personal willpower, his just will to graduate from high school, to be successful, was very much inspired by his mother. He had a dysfunctional relationship with her, but he loved her deeply. He revered her for her contributions to him and his sacrifices to him. So even though and he questioned himself in high school, he did know that he was different. He had this internal and very safe knowing that he was going to be more successful than the people around him. And that's what I see. So now I'm going to pull out. Now I'm going to go to the spirit skull, my spirit skull, and I'm going to ask a few questions about Tupac. I want to know a few things in regards to. I want to know, generally, like, what were Tupac's, spiritual gifts, and what was his spiritual purpose. Okay, they speak as one. They say he was gifted with the ability to control the masses through his words. A brilliant poet with humility and learned from writers, brilliant writers, because he was a playwright in his past life, made stars. So he made people popular as a playwright in past lifetimes. Now, no, needed in this lifetime to bring a new identity to music that would promote spiritual aggression. So what do you mean by hold on? I'm gonna spiritual. What do you mean by spiritual aggression? We mean the purpose was to establish balance in the music industry. This was to balance the other energies being drawn upon. We made him introduce and emulate aggression to re-inspire the black people to work for continue the work of their ancestors. And this mode of enlightened the black people and helped to radicalize their spirits, and they were able to draw upon their ancestors. And Tupac was able to draw upon his ancestors to to establish the foundation of aggression for this industry. So basically, what the spirits are saying is that Tupac's spiritual gifts, like in his past life, he was a playwright. And as a playwright, he was responsible for creating stars. He was never the talent in his past lifetime. This lifetime was about creating the stars, being a star, and using his gifts for himself in this lifetime. And he was continuing the work of the ancestors, which is to bring about balance in the music industry. He needed to. Some artists were drawing upon the energy of love, romantic love, erotic love, lustful love. Some artists were drawing upon, spiritual worship, or self-praise, or glorification of materialism. He and other artists were continuing a movement, of an ancestral movement about using the energy of aggression to enlighten and awaken people. And this isn't just about being a musician to carry this out. As I said earlier, he got the priest card, so he wasn't just a musician. He was a multi-occupational independent artist. A multi-occupational independent artist is how I'm getting it. And he was able to use his music platform to enlighten people, basically continuing the work of the ancestors. So yeah, now we're going to get back into the tarot reading. All right, so we have a question. We have a question from one of our YouTube subscribers is Nini Baby. Nini Baby wanted to know, what jewels of wisdom did his mother share with him as a child? Okay, so now we're going to talk about the wisdom that was shared with Tupac as a child. Okay, so from I think his mom's Afeni Shakur. Okay, so I get the Tower, the Hierophant, the Seven of Swords. So this particular row of cards is saying that the most powerful force around him, the most powerful teaching around that Afeni Shakur gave to him was that he should always fuel